We call a meeting to order. At 10 minutes. 10 to the 5. That's not like 5. Okay, yeah. Okay. I'll call the meeting to order at 2:05. Okay, so has everybody had a chance to look at?
You need to read the introductory
Oh,
statement.
I'm sorry. You're right. So this meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom with meeting ID number 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atn@ayer.ma.us or by phone at 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. Okay, so we good to go? All right. The meeting has been called to order. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Any changes, alterations?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Well, the motion has been what's the word? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Now for the meeting
Can I
minutes.
just ask a quick question is, reading that section on the agenda, is that required by state law?
Yep.
So you can't put it like on the website or when they see it?
It is, I mean, this is the agenda as it's posted, but it
Okay.
is required to read that.
Oh, okay.
That notice at the beginning of each
Okay.
meeting. I mean, if it's in a hybrid format.
Just curious.
So if everybody would just take a minute, myself included, to kind of look at the meeting minutes from July 9th. See if there are any.
I had sent 2 corrections, but I didn't see that they were fixed.
Are you printing from the version you had? Who printed these that you guys are looking at?
Yes, well,
I said-
everybody did, it seems.
No,
I printed it out at home and then copied it here.
Yeah.
Mary printed hers at home as well.
Okay, so that's the copy you
I
didn't see an
sent the
updated copy.
corrections to Mary Ellen.
Right, so those corrections, nobody here would have just because,
Right.
yeah, so, and they were just
It
a
was-
couple of typos, right? Yeah, so I would consider typos corrected.
Okay.
But I printed right before I came today. Okay.
Yeah, I just meant they don't have that because that's not the copy.
Okay.
Your edits came in after they got their copy from Mary Ellen. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, mine was like Jean Griffin. Her name was misspelled.
I'm sorry, Janine, the name is missing. That's not correct? N-I-C-H-I-P-O-N?
Jean Griffin.
Oh, Jean, I'm sorry.
The Griffin was misspelled. And there was, oh, it was, Autumn Ridge. So had been misspelled. So those two things were correct. The Autumn and the Griffin. I was fine. Just my 2 cents.
So we have a motion on the minutes.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as corrected. As the copies.
Second. Second. All those in favor? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So
I
Mark,
made a motion, we accepted the revised minutes.
I seconded.
You all tend to speak very
And you know
quietly
I'm
around
not
this
quiet.
table, much quieter than you normally do speak, so speak loudly.
yeah, the first one who's ever complained about that from me. So the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion to accept the meeting minutes of July 9th is approved. Has passed. Check and confirm this. Okay. So next on the agenda is the nominations and votes for officers of the board. Let me preface this by saying that I understand that when this came up last month, it led to a difficult conversation. So I think that one way to move forward with this topic is that I will nominate someone for the position of chair. Other nominations are also welcome. Those nominations will be seconded, and then perhaps we could have a conversation about how best to kind of move forward after we hear from the candidates for chair, and then we will fill that position. And then we will need to move on to co-chair and clerk. So do other board members feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. So I'd like to start off by nominating Mary as chair of the board.
I would nominate Marge,
Okay, so
sitting to my left.
so we need to have a nomination seconded.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Nancy.
I second the nominations. How do you say, do you individually or as a whole?
I think
No,
they're individual
individual.
motions.
Individual motion.
This is an adult.
I have a question. How can you do that with only 4 people?
Well, we're about to find out. Thank you.
Okay, so you made a motion
To nominate.
to not, right? And Bob seconded it,
Yeah.
right?
No, he made a
No,
motion.
he
Okay.
nominated Marge.
Okay, so is there a second
Yeah.
for that, one of the two?
Mary seconded.
A second. I mean, I'll second Bob's into March, just to put it on the agenda or how. it
Okay.
works.
Okay, so, all right. So we have 2 motions and 2 seconds now, right?
That's right.
Okay, so now discussion.
Right.
Okay,
I just think Marge has put her time in and she deserves it. And I'm gonna trust my grandmother to Hippie. So going back to the old Irish acre, the Timmins and Marcus grew up together. And the Hogans grew up together. And I appreciate Mary's seconded. my motion.
Okay. Do either of the candidates which talk about what they would like to see happen in the year ahead for the board, or?
I've been on the committee for about 15 months or so. Um, I'm interested in being chair. Um, but that being said, is my real goal is to advocate for the seniors in town. And however, in whatever manner that is necessary and required, so that their voices are heard.
You speak a little
I'm advocating for the seniors in town. The seniors that use the center and the seniors that don't, because there is a large group that do not use the center itself. But they still need or should have their voices heard across the town. That's what my goal is to advocate for them, whether it be locally, state, those types of things. I volunteer with the senior groups. I volunteer with AARP to do taxes for seniors. I've done that for a few years. And I'm also a Shine counselor. So I see certain things that seniors need and those types of things. So it's that type of advocacy that I'm looking at promoting with it.
And on the, I've been on the board, this is going on my 3rd year. I came for meetings, 3 months before I came on the board. I use the center. I am here among the people. I know what is needed. I help people with things that I don't even want to toot my own horn. Yeah.
It's almost a requirement.
I
Yes,
know,
yes, yeah.
I know. It is, and I'm here helping too. Volunteering. I see when somebody needs something, I can help get them. I help somebody get a scooter. I know how to go about and get things for them. Sometimes it's a matter of just listening and being a friend.
Anything else?
I have found this very frustrating. I don't like being called. And I think it's come to terms with. I won't even go there. Because I think that's between you and me.
Okay, if it's not germane to this discussion.
Well, it does have a lot to do with it, but I do think it's between. And I don't like that the board was pretty much set before. The last meeting, and it had to be tabled. But yeah, I'm very interested in being the chairperson. And you've been here a year, and I've been here
I don't necessarily, from my perspective, and with advocacy, is I don't think necessarily think time on a board is or should be a requirement. That's my personal
Well, I don't
opinion and
think
my
you
personal,
do less than I do.
not saying I do less than you, I'm not saying I do more than you. I expressed my interest in being chair. So,
And so did I.
and, you know, I've expressed it a couple of times over the past year. In being chair.
But not vocally
Well,
to everybody.
if
I
we
think
could-
you've had private conversations.
No, it wasn't a private, it was, you know, I wouldn't mind being in that typically.
I never heard you.
Well.
But
if
it
we
wasn't
could
in a
combine-
public and it wasn't necessarily in an environment where, and in past committees I have sat on, you've expressed that interest to
But-
the chair.
Never heard you. So you've
I-
had
'cause you
private
I was-
conversations.
Because it was expressed to the chair.
So
That
you've
yes, I would
had
be,
private conversations.
it wasn't it was a comment. But yes, but I haven't heard yours
Yeah,
publicly either.
could we confine the conversation to the relative merits of each being on assuming that the position of chair for the coming year and the advantages and of those things. Are there any other?
But in the interest of keeping harmony within the board, I will withdraw my interest.
I'm thinking,
In light of that. Do I hear a motion? Oh, a motion has already moved and seconded.
So you can call the vote or whatever.
Yeah. So call the vote. For, given that we have one candidate for the board chair. I call the vote to elect Marge Whitty as chair of the
so
Council on Aging.
I,
Second.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's already been seconded,
Oh,
then the vote
Sorry.
is
I vote,
aye.
I
Aye,
vote in the affirmative.
affirmative. Okay. No,
But they're
everybody voted. Did you vote?
I'm gonna abstain.
you're an abstain.
Okay,
That's fine.
Okay, so,
2-1.
okay,
Well, 2.
what did the chair say? Like,
Uh,
everyone has to,
That's
You
right.
voted.
Aye.
okay.
Okay. So take it away. So with that, we pass the duties and responsibilities of the chair to Marge.
Mhm.
To move on to the next agenda items.
Well, you have a co-chair and a clerk.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. With all the excitement about the first one, I forgot about the other two. So Marge, if you want to take that away, you now have 2 open positions. Well, 2,
You're gonna finish the meeting.
nope. You're gonna elect the
It's
chair.
not how they do it at selectmen.
I've seen boards do it either way, so
Do you want me to finish? it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what they do at,
Okey dokey, all right.
they finish the meeting.
So, with that,
I've been to enough meetings.
okay. Yes, Nancy,
That's possible.
Barbara.
That's
Barbara, I'm sorry.
See, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would just like to suggest to everyone here that the board adopt Robert's rules of order, the parliament to permit a meeting and how things should be done.
Uh-huh.
And Robert's rules of order, the chairman of the committee has no vote.
I have no vote,
So, this is not public input, I think.
okay,
I
yeah,
just wish you were looking for so many things.
all
You
right,
don't.
well, we'll reserve
Being
that.
that Katie has no vote.
Exactly.
Katie has no vote.
It's just the members.
Right,
Can vote.
Yeah,
okay,
Katie has no vote.
Right.
All right, so we'll move on.
Be familiar maybe with the roles,
Mhm.
so.
So that would be appropriate perhaps to discuss more during public input. But
Mhm.
for now, we'll move on to the
Yeah.
next, to filling the remaining
So we
positions
have
on the
the
board.
co and we have the clerk.
Okay. So any thoughts on the other two open positions on the board?
I nominate Dennis to be the clerk and the vice president, vice chair.
Second.
Three.
Clerk and vice chair?
Yeah,
Ah. No, can't do that.
One or the other.
Yeah,
I nominate Dennis to be the clerk.
okay,
Second.
second,
Second,
any discussion? I will accept the responsibilities of the clerk.
all right, thank you.
I'm sorry?
Just like.
This,
Yeah.
Joy, so, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
I,
All those opposed, hearing none. I am appointed clerk for the next year.
Great.
I'd like to nominate Mary as co-chair. I'm sorry, as, no, vice chair. For the coming year,
and I second that motion.
any discussion?
I think she do a great job.
As do I.
I think everyone will.
So hearing no discussion,
I,
motion passes. Okay. So I will complete this meeting and then for the next meeting, Mark will assume the responsibilities for chair. Um. My. What I would say, Marge, for the first thing is beware of holidays, beware of Monday holidays, Thanksgiving holidays. Because when you're trying to get the agenda in,
You gotta be aware of.
the Monday holidays especially, because things get moved and
Mhm.
the 48-hour notice is missed, so.
Yep.
Okay, so with that being said, the next item on the agenda, which I
Kind
think
of like a teacher's holiday.
that's right. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding,
Yeah.
we touched briefly on it last month regarding Janine's continued absence from the meetings.
Did you
And
hear from her?
I have not, and I spoke with Bobby, who had reached out, and
yeah, I volunteered to call her. I called her twice and I left both my message on machine. And she never called me back.
Yeah.
If she did, I didn't know about it. And I get all my phone calls ultimately. So I don't think she tried to call back.
Actually, as a point of clarification, I did not hear from her about her attendance at today's meeting. She thought it was last week, August 6th. And she said, I'm not ready to step down, will not be able to get to the meeting today. Thanks, Janine. And I responded, thanks for the update, but the meetings are the second Tuesday of the month. And she said, okay. So she is aware that the meeting was today. So sorry, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
So.
But-
I'm sorry.
This does make her May, June, July, August.
So I think at the last meeting, we clarified you guys adopted the policy in
May.
May.
Yeah.
So then June would be the first meeting that she missed according to the policy.
Okay.
So June, July, and August,
Agree.
now she is at the 3.
And this is not I think it's somewhat unusual that any volunteer board would ask the appointing authority to have a member removed. In this particular case, given her failure to attend any meeting, I believe, since November,
November was her last meeting.
and her failure to respond when reached out individually to, what's up? Will you be able to make a meeting? There's been just a fundamental lack of participation and lack of communication and with the other board members and also in pursuing the work of the board. If we do not act, we are essentially saying that the 4-member board is the appropriate size and it's okay for board members not to participate in the work of the board. And I'm speaking for myself, I don't think we can say that. No, I don't think I can say that. That is, if we are to respect the work of the board, an absent member who can still stay on the board kind of is contrary to that thought.
Well, that would also be in violation of the
That's right.
rules and governance that we set for this committee, and I think that would just throw them all into, it doesn't matter,
That's right.
so.
That's right. I agree with that. Other thoughts?
No, I agree. I agree with the former chairman. Yeah, I do.
No, I think the time has come.
Okay, so with that, and so Katie was good enough to Katie let me know that the next select board meeting is coming up on a week from today,
Yeah.
next Tuesday. In order for something to get on the agenda for the select board meeting, it needs to be submitted by noon on Thursday.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be that we write a letter to the select board, respectfully requesting that Janine's position be dismissed, that the position be considered vacant in order that it can be posted and that a new board member can be appointed.
I second the motion.
Well, okay, so we'll need a letter to the board. Well, I went to I didn't want to be too presumptuous, but I no, I did not write it. I drafted a letter, which,
We all should sign.
well, you should, yes, well, please read first.
Yeah, but we all should as a board.
Yes. So if you wanna, and I left some of the particulars out because I didn't have the precise details. Just for your information. The letterhead would need to be.
So it should be more actively engaged member be appointed. Correct?
You didn't say anything
No,
about health.
but correct, be appointed.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a
Yeah,
draft.
yeah.
I would encourage you to.
Yeah.
I will send you I mean, if this is. If the other board members are comfortable with this wording. Then I would encourage you to, make the necessary edits and then we can submit it.
Yeah.
For everybody's signature.
Yeah, the day we adopted it on May, whatever the second May was. Meeting.
She didn't say anything here about, she didn't say anything about health problems. And she
What's that?
didn't say anything about health problems. Having health problems.
So
Uh,
there's she contacted me before each of the meetings. And a couple of them are, she had a wide variety of reasons. Some of them were travel, some of them were conflicting appointments, some of them, I think one of them was she wasn't feeling well. But there wasn't a larger systemic sustained health problem, which is, I think, what the intent was of the
Yes.
Yeah.
exclusion in the
Yeah.
policies and procedures.
Well, there was also the notice is supposed to be given to the chair as
Mhm.
opposed to
Mhm,
Right.
the center director.
mhm.
So, May 14th is the date that the,
The second Tuesday.
yep. And then, the November meeting would have been November 14th. Just. So those are the dates, November 14th, 2023, and May 14th, 2024.
December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's
Well, it's been
not,
9 months.
But it's actually 8 because February got canceled for snow,
February
so let's,
can't.
yeah, so I think eight meetings would be
Mhm.
the accurate number in there for this letter. What was the last date that the blank was for there, Dennis?
I'm sorry, well, prior to, November, when she stopped coming.
Oh, okay,
That is, I want to acknowledge, and again, this was meant entirely as a draft, and I'd obviously welcome any changes. I wanted to acknowledge Janine's work with the board prior to that time.
Yeah,
And let the select board know that we are not being dismissive of the work that she did prior to no longer attending the meetings and no longer, being in communication. But that obviously over the last 8 months, she hasn't been here. But that the work prior to that was a community service, and she did kind of contribute to the work of the board. So I thought that it would be good for the select board to know that we acknowledge that.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
this just needs, the letter needs a date at the top for.
Yes.
today's date. Okay,
It needs the date on the top, it needs the address,
Mhm.
18. Yeah. Business form.
Okay,
We gotta get our own letterhead,
there you go.
Mhm.
and the town seal.
Mhm.
Council of Aging seal. Yeah, so what'd you put in here?
I think
Down
we
here?
should.
Prior to November
Yeah,
twenty
that's what,
twenty-three.
yeah, that's what I put. Just make sure we're on the same page.
Yep.
Just what I put in prior to November 2023.
And do the members feel like this is strong enough? That is, does it make its point
I think so,
without being,
without being zeroed in on them.
I mean, I didn't want to write too much,
I think this is simple and to the fact and. Includes all the necessary information.
Mhm.
I mean. Nixon resigned the presidency of the United States, and it was what was that?
Biden.
There's a difference between resigning and being removed.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I'm alone for that.
Were we all?
Yeah, we all, yeah.
Um,
Mm,
was
so
your
then-
name?
So. do I
Okay,
hear a-
so.
Do I hear a motion?
I think this part, but did you have another comment?
No, I was just going to say, I make motion, we present. Select board with a letter to. Release Janine,
Dismiss, I think.
dismiss
Yeah.
Janine from. The COA board.
Yeah, second.
So I think the motion would be to request that the
Right.
select board.
Request the
Yeah, select board,
select board
yeah.
to dismiss. Janine from the COA board.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those. So what I would suggest is that the edits be made to the letter, that the letter stay here and that we each sign it.
Mhm.
or do we want to go over the chair's signature?
So it just needs the letter the letter needs to go in by Thursday at noon,
Right, right. So
along with the request.
if we each sign it, we'll make a hard copy, leave it here, and we can sign it, come down here and sign it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Do we all need to sign it, or should it just be signed by the chair?
well, that was,
Because I mean, if it's part of our minutes, the board all agree
I think whatever makes it easiest to get it in Thursday
for
at noon.
Thursday, yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it would be helpful if we all sign it. I think that it will speak to the select board in a manner that it has a little more weight that if we each sign it as opposed to having the chair sign it. Thoughts? And again, I don't know, I don't think that the select board would intuit that the chair was acting maliciously if signed only by the chair, but rather if all four signatures are there, I think the board will perhaps recognize it with a little bit more weight.
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, I would think that if a line was added that this was voted at our last meeting.
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 13th. And just
Right, that's,
pass unanimously,
what's that?
pass
and
unanimously.
unanimously passed at the meeting of August 2024.
So what
And
do
you
you
got
want?
his money.
Either way, I don't care. I can drop it off and have you sign it at your house, so you don't have to come down
Or you can come down. I'm probably gonna be here anyway,
before Thursday.
yeah. You wanna have it ready?
So you're
You
gonna,
don't exercise before Friday, do you?
I don't know.
Because I can do that, and then you two can stop by, right?
I don't think I'm around the next 2 days during the day. I mean, that's part of the problem. Unless it's like gonna be ready before 8 tomorrow morning. And it probably wouldn't be.
Can I make a suggestion that, Mr. Chair?
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah, sure. I would, if we can quickly edit the letter after the meeting and have everyone sign before they leave, I think that would probably be the best approach. Because we do have a hard deadline at noon on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks for that, Carly.
Only takes a minute to retype.
Well, I have the,
Oh,
I
okay.
have my machine here.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we can make
Alright.
those
so we'll
changes.
do that.
and then who's going to the meeting on the 20th?
I gotta look at my schedule. I probably can.
Just in case there are questions.
Yep.
Oh, still on Sunday.
On the 20th.
Thanks.
6 p.m. Select board. Saved. How's that? Mhm.
All right. And just for public consumption, or for the record. So if the select board declines to dismiss Janine, then we will simply continue as is.
We go as,
Because we have no ability to kind of alter it.
Well, I guess should we ask for another member to be assigned as well, so that that does give you that odd person? So you don't become deadlocked. Either that, or you have to take one person that doesn't vote at a meeting.
So I think that's the importance of going
Yeah.
to the meeting on the 20th, so that you can hear what they will say. And then if there's an alternative to ask for, or an explanation, they can offer.
So then we would have 6.
but you can have up to 9, right?
You guys. would have to-
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Carly.
So sometimes, and we'd have to look into the statute, but for council and aging boards, the number is set by state law and usually ratified through a town meeting vote. So, in order, and again, if we look to change that, that would be a bigger discussion. I think given the change in policy that was adopted by the Council on Aging Board, and being that there has been a lack of attendance, I don't reasonably anticipate that the select board won't act on your request. It could happen, but well, as far as the number of seats on the board, that has to stay the same,
I think
at
you're
least
right.
for now.
I think you're right. I think it occurs to me that there's a town bylaw setting the number of board members for the Council on Aging, if I remember, that 5. Because they and at that time, they staggered the appointment dates in order to have it on rotating. So I'll just, Ms. Antonellis's point is well taken.
Yeah,
We may have to move forward again, but we'll see what the board does.
Yeah.
And then proceed accordingly.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at, there is a town bylaw. It's chapter 10. Article 1, where it's the Council on Aging shall consist of 5 members appointed by the select board. So if that were to change in the future, I think the state allows you to have more or less, but that has to be changed by town meeting.
okay.
Okay, all right, thanks for
All right,
that.
thank you.
Thanks, Carly.
All right, so moving on, so we all set with that, so we'll type this up and folks can sign it before they
Yep,
leave.
yep. That works.
Something.
So for the senior center director's report.
All right, great. Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to read what I distributed? Okay, great. So just to hit the highlights, I have, since the time that I wrote this, have had a chance to get the participation numbers on the grief program at the library. It doesn't appear that the numbers, the participation has been that great. So I think that we are going to let the Board of Health's funding run out in October. There didn't seem to be a reason to keep funding it, to pull it out of the COA's budget rather than the Board of Health. If there's more interest in the future, I suppose we could always go back to that, revisit that. And then, as I said in the report, I have a meeting with the town manager. We're collaborating with the town manager's office to see the transportation implications for the upcoming closure of the Neshoba Valley Medical Center, particularly, again, transportation will be the one that has the biggest budgetary implication, but there will also be outreach implications as well. So we are in close communication and feel a lot of support from that office as far as, adapting as we need to.
Would it be helpful for the board to communicate with the town manager's office in support of your desire to have the transportation?
I mean,
Would you find
could
that
if you
helpful?
wanted to, but I have found them to be very supportive of my proposed
Okay.
solutions.
And,
So-
and that solution would not require the select board's approval? I mean, Robert can do that on his own authority as town administrator.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because it will impact pretty much the whole year though, because your
Right,
budget just started.
right. Yeah. So that is in process. So, more to come on that as is with the whole hospital situation. Let's see, I was pleased to see Meals on Wheels count is coming back up again. Not pleased that people need Meals on Wheels, but pleased that since we had a fairly significant drop, that we are getting new enrollees because it's such a valuable program. The hybrid programming grant continues to go on. Not as much interest in some of the smaller programs, but we've got more arts and crafts coming up. That is great. Continuing to offer a lot of really high quality outreach services between Brittany and Mary Ellen. We've provided services to 31 seniors, a total of 60 times in July. They are mostly in areas of food insecurity, friendly visits, health benefits, and transportation. As always, we have family issues, home and care management, home repair, and legal assistance as well. Meals program continues to be very popular. 277 meals. That number is normally a little over 300, but January and July are honestly our lightest attended months, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Let's see. And we provided 420 rides in July to a total of 65 people. Again, we have had a team meeting already this month to talk about how the upcoming closure is going to affect the transportation schedule, the transportation offering. We're brainstorming some good ideas about how to expand the geography, particularly in the mornings. We're going to try some smaller changes for September, and then just know that as this situation unfolds, I think we're going to have to continue to revise it. And
So do we still have the per diem driver or,
so,
because you had been here, but then.
right, so he was hired and he worked while Sam was on vacation in, what was that, April? And then he just had a personal health situation and hasn't been able to work. So I'm not clear if or when he'll be able to come back.
Okay. So are you gonna look for another driver potentially to help fill?
Yes. And so the idea there is how to advertise it and how many hours, and if there's more hours or a different arrangement, like how to pay for that. And so that's part of what I'm trying to brainstorm with the town manager's office,
And
is
then-
how to,
And that includes the additional van too.
that would be my goal.
Okay.
Yes. My goal would be to have a second full-time driver with a second van. Again, we're in the middle of a budget year, trying to figure out how to best structure that and pay for it is part of what we're meeting about. But like I said, I feel very supported.
And it would seem that this politically, this is an auspicious time to be making that request, given the amount of political support, local political support there is from Senator Eldridge's office, from the representative's office, from the town manager's office, that your transportation budget be expanded to accommodate those needs.
Yeah, I don't think there's any mechanism for that
Right.
right now. So I think that's what we're trying to brainstorm, is how to make that work. So I feel good about it. Just more to come.
Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
How will that impact your budget?
So it would impact the budget because there would need to be, if it's a per diem driver, then Mark covers the wages.
Yeah,
But Mark covering the wages is part of a larger MBTA agreement that the town has with the state. So I'm unclear whether that can be modified in the middle of the year. I have hope that it can be. And then if the driver, what Mark doesn't cover is a full-time driver's benefits package. The town covers the benefits package. And so, like I said, I've been trying to work with the town manager's office to come up with ways to fund it. I think there are opportunities there. I just don't want to promise something that hasn't fully been met on and worked out, but we're.
so I wasn't doubting that we'll have an adverse impact on your budget. I was suggesting that we'll have an adverse impact on your budget.
Yes,
Most
for sure.
assuredly.
Yes.
And it's gonna be a detriment to anybody that requires hospitalization, visits to the doctor.
Right. So a hospitalization is usually outside of the scope of the COA's transportation services, but certainly outpatient doctor visits, any sort of testing, diagnostic testing, pre-op appointments, all those things that people are currently doing at the hospital will now need to be done elsewhere if the hospital does indeed close at the end of August. So like I said, we've made some small changes already as a staff for the September schedule. We'll ask for everyone's patience as we try and work through it, but you know, when we're taking people 3 or 4 minutes up the road to the hospital, we can accommodate anywhere between 12 and 20 people a day. If we're taking people to Leominster or to Clinton or to Concord, then, you know, we're gonna be able to serve 4 people, probably max a day. And so it's gonna have a ripple effect through the medical appointments, but also shopping and errands and all those other things. So,
Have any, did we, do you have any idea, Katie, of how those appointments are gonna be geographically separated? How many would go to Mr. Clinton versus or Concord?
I don't, yeah, because I think a lot of that is still being sorted out as the hospital is sorting.
So
their
it's
things out.
really
So
gonna be
we've
where the
been-
physicians end up.
Right, so we've been in touch with a number of the physicians' offices. Most of them are indicating that their outpatient practices will remain in the area, in their current offices for now. How long now is to be determined, and then if the hospital itself does indeed close on August 31st, that means that any follow-up blood work that your cardiologist wants or whatever, or any routine testing won't be able to be done there. People will have to go to another location. So I think it's really gonna depend on how each individual physician chooses to handle the transition. So I just expect there will be a wide variety. And in addition to the transportation, there will be higher demand for outreach services as people need to make changes to their insurance. Like, for example, there's an entire Steward health system mass health plan. So all of those people will need to go through a reassignment process and potentially find new physicians, maybe not, like there'll be some upheaval with health plans, as you know, as a Shine counselor. So you know, there'll be an increased demand for both Mary Ellen and Brittany's time for that.
Are
So
they gonna
there's,
get a special enrollment for that, or is that open enrollment? Because
You
that
know,
open
that's-
enrollment starts October 15th.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. Whether that would qualify, that's a good question. Could you follow up on that
But
and
it's
see what?
open at any time. I know that because I know people that have that insurance. And they have been able to change anytime. And then some of them have gone to the UMass system.
Yeah, so I think it's worth. I'd be curious to know, but I think for each of the outreach cases, it will be a one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
From the person who seeks out. So the point of that just being, I think there'll be an increased demand for assistance with that.
With the hospital closing, the medical office building where a lot of the doctor's offices are, will remain open and presumably continue as is for some period of time?
So my understanding, and I think that understanding can change on a moment's
Yeah.
notice, right? Because things are changing as they go. But that most of the outpatient physicians that we are regularly transporting our clients to
Yeah.
have said that their outpatient offices will stay where they are.
So
That
just,
could change, but
Sure.
that is what we're being told at the
and
moment.
I just happened to read today that the physician's practice
Was
was just bought by a new hedge fund based in Tennessee or
Right.
Missouri, I think. So all the Steward doctors will now start, if they stay with that group, will now start working for a
rural
different
health.
hedge fund.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
but some of the doctors aren't coming out from Boston and,
okay,
yeah. 'cause
all
I
right, well,
know-
more to come on that, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
because I won't call the ambulance, because I go to Framingham Union, so.
Oh, and one last piece on that. I do also anticipate some new and different riders, should people choose to change their physicians, because there's a lot of older adults who may be comfortable driving in town, but they wouldn't necessarily want to drive to a larger, less familiar medical facility. So I do think it would just be a fair amount of change. I don't think it's gonna be a wall of change, but I think it will be changing just to say that we're looking into it. We are open and flexible and trying to be as adaptable as possible to continue to meet the needs, but there will be an adjustment over the next few months.
It's hard.
Okay, building committee update.
Oh, did you want me to? Okay. Let's see, so the committee met twice in July, looking mostly at soil and utility data and estimates and revising floor plans and looking at site placements. And then doing the beginning work. I took it down. They fall down every night because there's no central AC in here, and so
Oh, I
temperature
see.
changes make
Yeah.
everything that you put on a wall that's not nailed down falls off the wall at night.
Yeah.
So, and the beginnings of a public engagement plan. So the next meeting is tomorrow, the 14th. Again, with the idea of going over the soil test boring data, the alternate site placements, and then to do another round of evaluation or scoring of each of the 2 remaining sites. So it's coming along.
What's the cost relative of putting the water in Bishop Road?
I don't have that paper right in front of me. Do you know that number?
Well, the thought for Bishop Road was, and that's a great question, Robert. The thought for Bishop Road was that the soil seems particularly well adapted to the use of septic, so the sewage would simply be septic on site. Water, I'm guessing the thought was perhaps $500,000 to bring water either from the Devon side, presumably from the Devon side. I think it was a little bit closer, and because of the railroad tracks. So the water would come from the triangle there where Bishop and McPherson intersect. And the cost of bringing water from there to the building site, it was guesstimated at about $500,000. And they anticipate, and again, that depends on the engineering of the soil, but the thought was that they wouldn't have to dig a trench. They could bore a hole because the ground, there's no rock there. They could just bore the pipe hole all the way through and it would go pretty quickly. The other utility is electric, which is kind of the big enchilada in that discussion, because bringing electricity to that site would require the most engineering and would have a higher cost. We don't know exactly what that might be, but it would certainly be more than what's available at Groton Harvard now.
They can't get an estimate of what the electricity would cost?
Well, at our last meeting, the upper range of what bringing the electricity to that site might cost was something on the order of $1 million.
But that was
Without
that
those
was
power
disclaimed as a conservative estimate, but that was the estimate.
Yes, yeah, that was the upper end.
When the power is right by the railroad tracks and it's
With
still
all the
gonna be $1
power
million.
lines.
Well,
We do not set those prices.
from your lips to National Grid's ears.
And, right.
So, but again, that was kind of, by
those
reading of Dan's,
transformers.
my reading of Dan's memo, that was kind of at the upper range of what might be needed. Just because of the acceleration in costs coming through during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. My hope would be that it would be less than that, obviously. But it will require more. I'm sorry.
But no, go ahead. It was just sort of, Katie was saying it was a conservative estimate. You're saying it was at the upper end.
You're saying it's at least $1 million?
No, I'm sorry. He used the word conservative and he was saying that he meant that to be the upper bound,
Okay,
that
okay.
was a safe, the safe upper bound, not
Okay,
a, not a
so I was
conservative as in a low end, but
Okay.
conservative as in.
No,
Right, so I just misunderstood that.
Yes, no, that's a good clarification. So that's it, and there will be more, we'll need to flesh out in more detail
Hmm.
that cost. As the cost of the entire structure and the building and any additional costs that might be needed at Groton Harvard. Just because of that site and the peculiarities of that site, so, but that's what we know now.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Katie,
Oh, no.
I need to step on your-
No, that, I think that was all I had for the
Okay.
building committee update.
So, as Katie mentioned, tomorrow evening at 6 here.
Mhm.
Are you looking to make a decision?
So, so I think the goal at tomorrow's meeting is to, in light of updated soil information and updated utility costs, to see if the committee is ready to make a decision, and if they are not, what additional information is needed and how do we get to that? So I think that's more of like a, are we ready to make a decision?
Okay,
Yes, Barbara.
because as a board, we should be more apt to come out and support you.
Right, right,
That's my goal.
yeah. No, I think
I
that's
mean, I've been on Zoom.
right. Yeah. The
But-
more the merrier. You
Yeah,
guys
no,
are
I've been on
always
Zoom watching
welcome.
the meetings,
Always
but
welcome to come.
I'm not, when you're ready to make it,
Right, yeah.
then I'll be in person.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing with these committees is that
Mhm.
there's a lot of meetings and a lot of work that goes in over
Yeah.
a period of time, yeah.
Thank you for your patience, Barbara. Yes.
Is Dan from the DPW going to be able to go to the meeting tomorrow night?
Yes.
Cause he hasn't been at the last few meetings, but he will be there maybe to give
I
a
think,
report on the soil.
he missed the last meeting. He was on a personal vacation.
Yeah, and he would be before that, so.
I'd have to look back at the records to know for sure.
It's been a lot.
So more to come, and
A
again,
lot of vacation.
well, we'll see. All I would say with regard to the building is that the utilities and the engineering are one piece of the entire conversation. That is, there is the structure itself, there is the location and all the other things that location brings or doesn't bring to the conversation. So there are any number of variables that will have to go, in my mind, no single variable is dispositive. That is, there is no single piece of information that will move me in one direction or another. It's the totality of the evidence that will.
But I would think, in my personal opinion, that the most important thing right now is where are we going to put it? What the decision would be as to the ground soil in order to go any further.
Yes, but the decision as to my thought process into what is the best spot in town to put it
Right,
is comprised of many, many variables in my mind.
Well, you gotta have soil. there.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not-
And the soil and the engineering and the utilities are part of that.
right.
But, and as are many other things, it's no single one.
There's actually 12 variables on a matrix that the architect has used successfully with many towns to allow each of the board members that are all coming at this project with a really different perspective and expertise to kind of come together and objectively score each of the sites on these,
Yep.
I think it's 12 factors, and they're weighted evenly on there, but they don't have to be, so.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
So in terms of, yeah, we're moving along here. So in terms of COE, and I know that the building committee met, and we started talking about doing the community outreach. Well, that's Wednesday, doing the community outreach regarding in preparation for fall town meeting and having given it some thought and then talked back with Katie and other board members and building committee board members, individually. I think it's for this, this is my view, that we, the senior center, the Council on Aging Board, will need to align our messaging regarding the fall town meeting and the senior center with the building committee's messaging. That is,
Mhm.
in my view, our voice to the community should be consonant with, should be, tightly aligned with the building committee's messaging to the community, and that we not be seen as working at cross purposes. Because even if we are even if both committees are supportive, but the messaging is different,
We gotta be partners.
it may be, the messaging may get muddled.
No, we gotta be partners.
So there will be more to come on that, because the precise messaging, what language to use, what are the facts of the case,
Mhm.
how it's, all that is gonna be fleshed out in the next, where are we, mid-August now, mid-September, in the next 6 weeks or so prior to town meeting. So, right now, I think it's just thinking, who do we need to be reaching out to? And I know that Marge has done some of that work, and we'll look at doing the different town committees as well.
As I think of them, I give them to Katie.
Mhm. I appreciate that, yeah.
And then when we have, when we know what the messaging will be, we'll be able to move forward.
Hey, after being in front of a class for 25 years, I'm glad to stand up in front of people.
Great, great. I think we've got a lot of groups and a lot of people we wanna get the message out to.
Right there.
I'm sorry, Bob, did you want,
No,
any additional public input?
no,
Barbara?
Yeah,
I have a list.
oh, good.
But I'm gonna make it short. The first thing is, what does the clerk do? What is the job of the clerk?
It's,
it works.
You want me to tell you?
I'm
I just
asking you
came
a
off
question.
it.
I'm just asking. you a
Mary
question.
Ellen does the minutes.
Mary Ellen's not here to take minutes.
And I signed and brought them down to town hall.
So I think that's something that should go on the agenda for the next meeting, whether the new board and the new set of officers feels like that arrangement is still working and still valuable.
Mhm.
For Mary Ellen to do the
Mhm.
minutes.
But like for this important meeting, Mary Ellen's not here to take minutes.
This meeting's being recorded, so she'll do the minutes from the
Okay, so she
recording.
did, okay, so that takes care of that one.
Yep.
Now, the other question is there any way that the senior center can get extra help to buy a second van through the town with all of the closing of the hospital, with all of the appointments that are gonna be? And the town of Ayer help in any way?
So the town manager's office has been very supportive, like they understand the increased demand that can happen. The situation is still unfolding, obviously, but they excuse me, they understand. They're very supportive. We've been brainstorming on options to get another van. I think the quickest method likely won't be for the town itself to purchase another van, but that is certainly a possibility. And like I said, we're gonna have a meeting coming up in the next week or so to really get down into the details further on that.
Okay, so my other question against this for the hospitals, is there any way that people, I know people that are here in the senior center, they volunteer to help people, to bring people to appointments? I know they have it through the cancer, they have people that drive. Is there any way that something could be set up if people want to volunteer? I asked one of the co-workers here to help me tomorrow to get to Concord. Is there any way that the senior center could think of putting something in there if somebody wants to be able to volunteer to help people? That's a question.
So, sometime ago, maybe let's say a year and a half ago, I tried to start a volunteer driver program. I was met with a fair amount of obstacles from a liability perspective with a town-sponsored program. So I think that just like the Friends of the Ayer seniors are starting as their own 501c3,
Mhm.
not-for-profit group.
Right.
I think if there was a group of people who wanted to start a volunteer transportation program in town, I certainly think it would be popular and well utilized. There's a model called the Villages, a village model. Groton has one. It's a part of a broader co-op of services, not just rides, but other services. The town of Harvard has what they call Harvard Help, which is also a volunteer-led ride program. It would just be something that the people would need to organize from a more of a grassroots
I think
perspective.
Sudbury does something similar
Mhm.
with, I know they were doing it with grocery shopping and maybe medical appointments as well. I don't know what the underlying structure was. But it was, the senior center there had pamphlets that they handed out.
Hmm.
If you want to ride to appointments, this is how you arrange it.
Yeah, we did it in Framingham just for church rides. And it was,
So,
But it's
I mean,
just, question to come up.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I just wanna say is Katie and Denise has been doing a marvelous job with the food.
oh, yeah.
She's been doing
wonderful.
great,
Yeah,
and I want her to
she's-
get credit for
she's
Mhm.
all
wonderful.
that she's doing. Am I right, Bob? Denise has good food.
Oh, it's been great.
She does a wonderful job picking out a tasty and delicious.
And Katie's been doing a good job. My other question to Katie is, when are we having our cookout? Because the other towns are having a cookout, so nobody's coming here because they're going to the opposite direction
They are.
for a cookout. So when are we gonna have one?
A cookout?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's Littleton,
Yep,
Mhm.
then Shirley.
Shirley.
So we haven't done a cookout in the 3 years that I've been here
We
because the firemen
Mhm.
do a cookout.
What did we have at Pleasant Street last year?
Oh, well, that was an outside luncheon. I guess I wasn't considering that like a
I thought that was
barbecue
a
cookout.
Oh, that was a cookout.
Yeah.
Okay, what did we have, like baked haddock or something like that? It was a,
Yeah, we
It
had
was a-
food there. but
That was a
it
takeout cookout.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
was,
But like
it was
tomorrow,
great.
everybody's going to Littleton. I'm
Right.
not.
Yeah,
I thought you meant more like a burgers and hot dog summer cookout.
and that would be
We had-
nice.
We unfortunately don't really have space here to do an outdoor cookout, nor do we have a commercial kitchen to cook burgers and dogs in
We
indoors.
couldn't get a
So-
grill and have a cookout out here and have part of the cars not parked there.
Yeah, tell the cars not parked
Not
down
parked
there.
No, parked down the hill,
Okay, I can look into that.
Yeah,
so it's a cookout, people are looking for hot dogs and hamburgers as a.
Where does Littleton hold theirs?
at the fire station.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is that the same as our firemen did a cookout for us in June?
I think they do it on the park next to the fire station.
Okay,
I
But is it
don't know
counted-
because I'm not
Is
going.
it counted as a fireman's or is it counted as a senior?
It's
is that
for
what
the
you-
seniors.
It's for the seniors, but it's not counted as so it'll be the same thing the fire people do.
But I've never gone.
Yeah.
I only know tomorrow, everybody is going.
Mhm.
Everybody from here is going to
Yeah,
Littleton?
right,
Wow.
and they're going to Shirley.
And then they're going to Shirley.
see,
Because
Go
it's
to all of the
I've
different
been
senior
waiting for the last
centers.
90 seconds for that.
It's outdoors in Shirley. It's not a Shirley Senior Center affair.
So it's not a senior center cookout.
It's for the seniors, but it's not ran by the center.
Who runs it?
I believe it's the fire.
Okay, so it's the same as our firemen's cookout that we
But-
already did in June.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah,
I've
so
only
but I-
heard
so you're-
Adele talking
yeah,
about it.
so you're bringing up-
everybody-
you're bringing up a great
everybody-
you're bringing up a great point that I need to get details in place for our September Pleasant Street Park event.
That they haven't put the ramp in yet.
Because I don't follow the crowd.
Well, actually, if you, would it be helpful to have that on the agenda for our meeting next month?
Sure,
Okay,
I don't think it's gonna go anywhere, do you, Bob?
but it's, I mean, you raise a good, you raise a good
What do you want on the agenda?
No, Barbara was asking the question of
Right.
where does the possible ramps stand?
Um,
And again, but I think it's,
because
the
Alan's
bigger-
not here, I don't know where to follow up with.
the bigger picture is that this is a case where a town committee, in this case, two town committees, approach the housing authority in an effort to advocate for
Mhm.
what would seem like a pretty straightforward improvement in the lives of those who
And,
are mobility
Right.
impaired at Pleasant Street.
and I've been to
Yeah.
2026, but
And where that process stands or how to move that process forward, or how to engage with the entities that control that remains somewhat unclear. And I think it's important for the citizens, in this case Barbara, but also others,
Mhm.
to understand where the friction is that prevents the smooth
Right.
movement forward.
Right.
So I think next month we could talk about that in a little bit more detail and maybe, get some answers.
My third thing, or fifth thing, whatever the case may be, is that I think it was too bad with the voting today that there wasn't the fifth person voting today. And I don't think it's fair for either one, Mary or Marge, have to go through that without a fifth person here to vote. And I think it's too bad it didn't happen.
Yep.
And there's no way in shape or form that it, my opinion, was okay.
Yep.
For both of them.
No, I
That's just my
understand.
personal opinion.
Yeah, you have to break the tie.
Yeah, I mean, so for her not to be here, it just,
It's,
and it's like. The thing is that it's the same people that are on the boards that vote for each other. It's like nobody else puts in to be a member of the board. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, as Carly said, though, is it's state mandated, and then there's a town bylaw for 5 members. So
Right.
yes, so to get that fifth place, to have 5 active
Active
members
members, yeah,
is critical.
I
And
agree.
And I think this showed us
How
that, and shows
important-
everybody that
right,
it's
how important it
how
is.
critical it
But
is to
then
have
if
that.
the town knew, or the seniors knew, the town knew that there was going to be a voting for new offices, it should be open for the town, I would think, to
So-
be able to put the name in to be an, to run for.
So that's actually a little bit different, and thank you for clarifying that. So in order to be an officer of this board, you first have to be appointed to this board. So there are 5 members of the board. And
Okay,
anytime there's a board vacancy.
right,
It is advertised on the town's website, on the town's social media, so that anyone can express their interest to the town manager's office about being on the board. And from there, it is amongst the people who are on the board that are eligible to become officers of the board.
so the name would have to go to the town manager first,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And then from the town manager, it would come back here to the board.
to the select board.
It would go to the select board.
Yeah.
So then when does the committee have a say?
We don't.
But
That is, we do not have a say in who gets appointed to the board. That is, the town manager, well, that's
you
not
can,
true.
you can make a recommendation.
That's right. we could, if
I'm
we,
just- I'm
no,
just-
no, if
throwing
we
it-
understood that someone was interested in the board, a vacancy on the board. I think that the select board would take seriously our recommendation that so-and-so be appointed to the board. Or in the odd case, of the extremely unusual case, not be appointed to the board. But we don't have the ability to fill the vacancy on the board. We do have the ability to vote on who is chair, co-chair, clerk,
Okay,
and the select board would not weigh in on that, I don't think. But we do, but as for members who come on the board, it has to go to the town manager's office
and then
and the
select,
select board, and then they're
before
appointed
they
to the
make a
board.
decision, they check with you.
Yes, I would suspect that they
Okay,
would
all
take
right,
our,
just clarification.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was,
no, that's good to know.
I can shed a little light too, if you'd prefer.
Hey, Charlie.
Anytime, someone, expresses the desire to serve on a board, we always recommend, we take, we get their information and we always recommend that they speak with the chairman of the board first, just to make sure it's a good fit and that they understand what the meeting schedule is, et cetera, and what the commitment will be. And then we usually get an email from the board chair or the board in, as a whole. Sometimes it's really the preference of the board. Some boards interview candidates. Some, we are strapped for people. So if someone applies, we usually obviously appoint them because we need people to serve. We have a lot of vacancies. So it just depends on the level of interest, but this board of select, or the select board will always take a recommendation from the board that's, making the recommendation. They always look at that before they make the appointment.
Thank you, Carly.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carly. Bye-bye.
Those were all my
Okay,
notes.
so do we have anything else? No, so,
Just that letter,
what's that?
just a letter,
Just a letter, okay, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
At 3:26, let's call it, meeting is adjourned.